So who are we talking to?
Jannae Jordan.
All right. And how did you get involved in house music?
Okay. I actually, my now husband introduced me to more or less the business side of it by way of a lot of people he knew when he was around back in the 80s and DJing and big club head, you know, Zanzibar and that whole thing. Which
oh, really?
Way, you know, out of, you know, I'm a baby in comparison. So I wasn't here for that, but he went to the service, he came back, and years later we met, and around that time, coincidentally, he was deciding to get back into playing and get back on the scene. And so while he was doing that, he started introducing me to people that he knew. And one of the people that he introduced me to that was actually willing to take a chance with this unknown singer who wanted to write and wanted to break in. And more or less at that time, I really wanted to do a demo. And it was Boyd Jarvis.
And when was this? Around what time?
This was back in '98, actually. And that was the beginning. Boyd gave me my voice on the scene.
Okay.
He was the first.
And what was the first project you worked on with Boyd?
That was called Reach for the Light, and it's still unreleased to this day. But it was, he'd played it for enough people at the time that in the record shops and such, like dance tracks. And the guys that would hear it whenever he'd play it, they were like, well, who's that? You know, she's pretty good. And so even though it never got to come out, it did something that I needed it to do, which was make noise, give me a voice, give me a name, and coming by way of somebody who had the reputation of working with talented people, that he wouldn't, you know, expend his time and effort working with somebody who wasn't really going to bring it. So that was kind of the thing that gave me that credibility as far as she's worth taking a second look at. So if, you know, give her a shot, you know, just check out what she's about, because she actually can show and prove.
Okay. And then from Boyd, who else did you work with? Tell us about that journey.
Oh, gosh. Okay. After working with Boyd, I took some time off. I was working at the time. I was a IT project manager downtown. So I really couldn't stick with the music on that committed full-time basis. So it was catch as catch can on the weekends and what have you. And it really wasn't until post-September 11th when I had to step back and kind of reevaluate what I wanted. And what I wanted wasn't just the money and the status, you know, the quote-unquote American dream job, but to really get back to my words and the music and my passion. And in the middle of all that, there were obviously people that I'd gotten to meet in being on the scene at that point for a couple of years, more or less as a supporter and newbie artist, as I got constantly reminded, unestablished artist. One of the people that I crossed paths with was Tyrone Francis. And again, at the time when Boyd was working on Reach for the Light and was basically previewing it for people, was when Tyrone was working at Dance Track. So he had gotten wind of what I was doing, and he had, at that point, had just hooked up with this new kid in town, Quentin Harris. And he approached, and he says, you know, we're looking for a singer, and I know you can write, and what do you think? And I said, give me the tape. Passed me the tape, I listened to it, and it was kind of like magic, because the melody that Quentin had laid out really went with something that I already had in my catalog. And it was a piece that I had actually written. It was almost a stream of consciousness poem that I'd written one day at work, just messing around, and just kind of came to me. That's part of my process. It just happens sometimes. And it was sincere. And I heard it immediately when I was listening to the music. I heard how this piece could flow with it. And within a couple of weeks, we got together, and the three of us did it. Quentin was on those keys, and it was in his living room. It was a rough demo production. But that was my actual first release, was Sincere. And
when was this?
That was end of 2001.
Okay.
End of 2001, early 2002. I'll say 2002, because right after that was, by way of Tyrone, what I got, the best gift that I got from that project was getting to be introduced to David Camacho, who was the person who really, I'd have to say, was the first person I met next to Boyd who really could see what I could do beyond just house, and could really see my potential for growth if given the opportunity and the time and the patience to just let me feel it and go through that growth process that you go through. So at the time, as David used to call them, I wrote a lot of quote-unquote angry woman songs, which he were more or less about empowerment. And one of those songs was Me, which ended up coming out all these years later with a remix by Quentin on Shelter last year. So it was kind of like a weird full circle, which is why I say all that to say what. It was just how all those people and the connection there, it just kind of came full circle with one of those songs from that time when I was being told it's okay for you to say exactly what you feel in your music. Go for it. It was Camacho that said that. Just do it. No over direction, and just, doesn't have to be perfect. We can always go back and do it again. And we did. And that particular project, like I said, came out all this time later. But the next release after Sincere was Stronger, another, strong woman song. And that was in 2002 with Jamison Bray for Camacho's label Wake Up. And that was fun. And again, that was a riot, to be quite honest, because Jamison started with this rough track that sounded like the opening of a soap opera, and all I kept thinking was, this is drama. This is just drama. And then I came up with this theme, and I was like, cheating, drama. And at the time, I had a girlfriend of mine who was going through a situation, and I'm always that person who's on the other line going, okay, what you need to do is stand up for yourself and, do what you got to do, girl. And I took that and put it in the song and ran with it, because it was like, if it was me, this is what I would say. And that's how Stronger happened, and it was between that, it just had an attitude, and I said, okay, this is a drama song, and that's what we did. We did a drama record. It was drama, straight drama, and that was fun though. And that was the second release. And since then, I would say after that, I took some time off. I went back to college to finish up the advertising and marketing degree I'd started, and that was important to me because first of all, education has always been something that was just kind of like really key in my family. There's so many people. I mean, we've got everything from doctors, lawyers, bus drivers, cops. It's about do something, and knowledge, and it's just get as much of it as you can. And for me, my big thing is I don't like loose ends. So when it came to there being a loose end where my education was concerned, even at 20 years old, it was like, okay, I'm going to go back and do this. And around the time, I just focused on school and fencing and everything else but music. I just wanted to just be more well-rounded before I came back to it, because it will take a lot out of you. And if you don't have other things going on in your life, you get lost, And so there was this gap in there between the 2002 release and then the next thing that I got into was working with Antonio Ocasio. And that was something that we had talked about off and on, going actually back to when I was working with Boyd, because he was one of those people who got introduced to me through my work with Boyd.